Good morning, everyone. Let me ask you a simple question. How many times in a day do we speak without really thinking? We respond to messages instantly, we react in conversations quickly, and sometimes we say things we didn't truly mean. Just because the moment demanded a response, words come easily to us, but meaningful words, those require awareness. In a world where speed is appreciated, we have become very quick at expressing, but not always intentional in communicating. And that is where the difference lies. Because communication is not just about speaking, it's about understanding, choosing, and delivering words in a way that creates clarity, not confusion. It is about knowing when to speak, how to speak, and sometimes when not to speak at all. Today, I want to talk about something we all use every single day, yet rarely practice and discipline. Intentional communication, speaking with purpose instead of reacting impulsively, because when we learn to pause, to reflect, and to choose our words carefully, communication transforms from something ordinary into something powerful. We speak every day. We respond, react, express, explain. Words come easily to us, and sometimes too easily. But have we ever paused to ask, are we speaking with intention or are we simply reacting to the moment? Because there is a difference, a powerful one. Communication is not just about saying something, it's about how, why, and when you say it. In today's fast paced world, most of us have mastered speed but not intention. We reply instantly, we interrupt quickly, we express without pausing, but in doing so, we often lose clarity, we lose depth, and sometimes we lose connection. Intentional communication is a craft, and like every craft, it requires discipline. It asks you to slow down when everything around you is speeding up. It asks you to listen when your mind wants to speak. It asks you to choose your words instead of letting them choose you. Because not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every reaction needs to become a response. There is power in pause. A pause is not silence out of hesitation, it is silence with awareness. It gives you space to think, to process, to understand not just yourself but the other person as well. And in that space, your communication transforms. Instead of reacting impulsively, you begin to respond consciously, and that changes everything. Think about the last time you said something in the heat of the moment. Words spoken in haste often carry emotion without clarity. They may be true in feeling, but not always helpful in impact. And once spoken, words cannot be taken back. This is where discipline comes in. Discipline in communication is not about restricting yourself, it is about refining yourself. It is about asking, what is the purpose of what I am about to say? Is it to express, to clarify, to connect, or simply to react? Because when you speak with purpose, your words carry weight. They become intentional, clear, and impactful. Intentional communication also begins with listening. Not listening to reply, but listening to understand. In most conversations, we are already preparing our response while the other person is still speaking. We are not fully present, but when you truly listen, you create space. You allow the other person to feel heard, and in return, your words are received with more openness. Listening itself is a discipline. It requires patience, it requires presence, it requires letting go of the need to always be right. And in doing so, you build stronger, more meaningful connections. Another important aspect of intentional communication is emotional awareness. Our emotions often drive our words. Anger, frustration, excitement, fear, they all influence how we speak. But discipline allows you to feel your emotions without being controlled by them. It allows you to pause and ask, is this the right way to speak? Is this the right tone? Because timing matters. The same words spoken at the wrong time can create misunderstanding, but spoken at the right moment, they can create clarity. That is the power of timing. That is the craft of communication. Intentional communication also means being clear and simple. We often communicate our words trying to say more than is needed, but clarity comes from simplicity. Say what you mean what you say, and avoid unnecessary noise because the more precise your words are, the more powerful they become. In my own journey, I have learned that communication is not about speaking more, it is about speaking better. There were times when I reacted quickly, when I spoke without thinking, when I allowed emotions to take over my words. And often those moments led to misunderstanding. But over time, I began to practice pause, to slow down, to reflect before responding. And gradually, I noticed a shift. My words became clearer, my conversations became calmer, my connections became deeper, and most importantly, I felt more in control of myself. Because intentional communication is not just about how others perceive you, it is about how you understand yourself. It is about aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your words. And that alignment is where true confidence comes from. Confidence is not loud speech, it is clear speech. It is knowing when to speak, how to speak, and when to stay silent. Silence, too, is a form of communication. Sometimes, choosing not to respond is more powerful than saying the wrong thing. But silence should not come from fear, it should come from awareness, from knowing that not every moment requires your voice. Intentional communication also teaches you to respect others' perspectives. You may not always agree, and that is okay. But discipline allows you to express disagreement without disrespect, to communicate your point without creating conflict. Because the goal of communication is not win an argument, it is to create understanding, and that requires empathy, to put yourself someone else's place, to consider their perspective, to respond with awareness, not assumption. In a world full of noise, intentional communication is rare, but it is also powerful. Because when you speak with purpose, people listen. When you listen with presence, people open up. And when you combine the two, you create meaningful impact. This is not something that happens overnight, it is a practice, a daily effort to become more aware of your words, your tone, your timing. Some days you will get it right, some days you may still react, and that's okay. Because discipline is not perfection, it is consistency. It is the willingness to keep improving, to keep observing, to keep refining. And slowly, this practice becomes a part of you. You begin to communicate with more clarity, more calmness, and more confidence And that is when communication becomes not just a skill but a strength. So the next time you are about to speak, pause. Take a moment, ask yourself, why am I saying this? How can I say this better? And then speak with intention because your words have power. And when used with awareness, they can create clarity, they build trust, and leaves a lasting impact. So speak less, but speak with purpose.